Good morning, ladies and gentlemen, and thank you, WIPCE. Let me first start by acknowledging the traditional owners of this country, the Wurundjeri and the Bunurong. For those who are unaware, Indigenous languages in this country are at a crisis point. At the time of European arrival, there are over 250 recorded Indigenous languages. Today there are 6 strong, 25 at various levels of endangerment, and the rest are pretty much gone. That's over 200. How does that make you feel? This represents the highest rate of language extinction anywhere in the world. So what does FATSIL do? Well, at FATSIL, as the national body, we advocate to support Indigenous languages through lobbying the government, advising on policy, conducting research, assisting in the maintenance, promotion, recording and documenting, and the revival of Indigenous languages. But to secure our Indigenous languages within Australian society, we must go further. When I say that, I'm talking about formally recognising our languages through legislation. So does this work? In Wales, in the UK it does, in New Zealand it does, and many other places. In actual fact, both of those countries have language acts. The Maori Language Act of 1987 and the Welsh Language Act of 1993. Other countries are moving towards protecting their Indigenous languages also. Now, people must be thinking, it's not possible or viable to have so many different languages recognised in Australia. Well, it's not complicated in Europe, and no one says that so many different languages don't work there. I mean, what would Europe be without so many different languages and culture? South Africa has 11 official languages, Russia has 27 co-official languages, Spain has Spanish plus 4, China has 14, the list goes on and on. So can groups live within a country and speak a separate language? Well, they do in French Quebec, located in Canada, and they do the same in many other countries around the world. What about the argument that Indigenous languages are not capable of conveying modern scientific meaning? That may be true, but the same applies for all languages. For example, what's the English word for democracy? Because that's a Greek word, not English. How about religion? Again, that's not English, that's Latin. Here in Australia, if Indigenous languages have no relevance and don't convey enough meaning and English does, then what's the English word for kangaroo? Didgeridoo, emu, boomerang. What's the English name for Wollongong, Parramatta, Geelong? Languages change. When they don't change, they are dead. No one language encompasses all meaning. It's not possible. Languages can coexist. It's been happening all over the world for thousands of years. Groups within a single country can and do retain their native language. Once again, it happens all over the world, except here in Australia. So if it's natural and already happening all over the world, why isn't it happening here? Why do you think? Here in Australia, our politicians have continually failed to acknowledge Australia's first languages, the oldest spoken languages on earth, while in other countries it's standard practice. How can we ever communicate as equals when one side refuses to acknowledge the language we speak? The vast majority of programs, initiatives and projects have failed, in my opinion, over the decades because of a breakdown in communication. It's that simple. This trend will continue until Australia's Indigenous languages are formally recognised. In the Northern Territory, we are being told, just like the old mission days, that we cannot speak our languages for the first 4 hours of each school day starting next year. Bilingual education in the Northern Territory is a scapegoat for a long list of consecutive failures. Bilingual education has been proven time and time again all over the world that it improves a child's chances of success. The evidence supports bilingual education as being successful is overwhelming. It's a fact. First there was terra nullius, and now it's like lingua nullius. If we had to bridge the gap between Indigenous and non-Indigenous and move on from the apology delivered by the Prime Minister, we need to start at the basics. By the way, I say bridge the gap and not close the gap. I'm happy to be different, I'm proud to be Aboriginal. Closing the gap, to me, is assimilation. Here in Australia, Aboriginal and Torres Strait Islander languages must be formally recognised through legislation. It's the basic underlying principle of a multicultural society. Many of my relatives speak English as a second or third language only. Believe it or not, some Aboriginal people to this day do not speak good English. We as a multicultural people fully understand the need to move beyond our cultures. Monocultured people make great monocultural decisions. Learning another language opens our eyes to a whole new socio-cultural dimension, whether it's Aboriginal, Japanese, Arabic, or any other language. So what can each of us do today? I urge you to join FATSIL and work with us to formally recognise our language and culture before it's lost forever. Forms are available at the FATSIL stand right now, and it costs $5. What a great investment. For those who don't want to join, you can still support Indigenous languages by visiting our website, where we have an online petition. The petition was made possible thanks to the work of Rob Amory, Patrick McConville, Greg Wilson, Jeannie Bell, Lester Irabini Rigney, Melanie Gilbank, Alex Kelly, Adriana Truscott, and Kirsten Chiefin, along with FATSIL. So what is FATSIL doing? We are lobbying the government to hold an Indigenous language inquiry through the House Standing Committee on Aboriginal and Torres Strait Islander Affairs. But, like all other things, thank you. But, there's always a but. It appears that the inquiry won't go ahead through a lack of support. Nevertheless, FATSIL will continue to push our languages to be recognised. We're not going to give up that easy. We are also forming a National Indigenous Translator and Interpreter Register with the assistance of NAATI. We're moving ahead with a National Indigenous Language Association under FATSIL. In relation to the National Indigenous Register, I must thank Dr. Lindsay Haywood from NAATI, CEO, and the NAATI Board, who have unanimously supported the initiative and continue to do so. I must also thank Jeannie Bell, Lorna Wilson, Eve Fessel, Heather Glass, Ken Leckleitner, Dagmar Dixon, who continue to volunteer their time to keep this groundbreaking project moving. And I also need to thank the Minister for Indigenous Affairs, Jenny Macklin, who approved the funding on short notice. Her support has been great for FATSIL. Look, we can do things, we can make a difference. The support is there and FATSIL can take the lead, but we need your help. As they say, united we stand and divided we fall. Thank you for your time.